Hello and welcome. We are working on section 1.2 today, solving equations in one variable. We're just going to go through the simple basic steps, simplify and then add or subtract to get like terms together, and then we multiply or divide to solve for our final variable. Now, you should find this very similar to the way that you learned how to do this in Algebra 1 or pre-algebra. So hopefully this will go rather smoothly. Before we get into that, let's take a little look at this idea of a set. Okay, so a solution set is just simply the answers to the question, okay, that fit within the parameters that you're given. Now, an empty set means that there's nothing in it. It means that there's no solution. Now, you may also see, okay, a null set, which again, there is nothing in it. There is no solution. And then an identity is when you're solving an equation and you get a situation in which you get something like 3 equals 3 for your final answer. Well, then you have to ask yourself, when will 3 equal 3? Well, 3 will always equal 3. So that means no matter what you put in that's an answer to it, it will always work. So this is just all real numbers. Now, what you may also find is that sometimes that is denoted with an R with like an extra up bar there. Okay, so let's take a look at how to solve some of these. Okay, so our first one here, right, there are no like terms that combine on either side, so we can just simply go straight to solving for it. So we can subtract the 3r's from both sides. 6r minus 3r leaves me with 3r equals a negative 12, and then those would cancel each other out. We can now divide both sides by 3 to get rid of that multiplication by 3, and we're left with r equals a negative 4. Okay, our second one here, right, this side has our variable on it, so we want to subtract 18 to get the variable by itself first. So a negative 2/3 f equals a negative 6. Okay, and now at this point, right, we have this fraction that we have to deal with, which a lot of the time students don't like fractions, but there's nothing to worry about. There's nothing scary about fractions. But to get rid of a fraction, we multiply by the reciprocal. And if you don't remember what a reciprocal is, it's simply where you flip your fraction. So this started off as a negative 2/3, so we're simply going to multiply by a negative 3/2. So now those cancel each other out completely, and we're left with f equals, well, a negative 6 times a negative 3 is a positive 18, right? Negative and a negative is a positive, divided by 2. And if we have that 18 divided by 2, that gives us that f equals 9. Okay, and then our last problem here in this row, we distribute this 2 first. So that gives me 6t minus 8 equals 6t plus 3. We always want to get our variables on the same side, so if we subtract 6t from both sides, we end up with negative 8 equals 3. Well, what the heck? When will negative 8 ever equal 3? Well, hopefully you can all come to the conclusion, right, that negative 8 will never equal 3. So this is no solution. So this is an empty set or a null set. Okay, there is no solution. Okay, for this next one, okay, we have this lovely fraction here. Now, at this point, you guys have to ask yourselves, am I willing to deal with a fraction or not? Okay, some students are so afraid of fractions, they're like, I can't handle, I have to get rid of it before I do anything else. So if that's the case, that's fine. We can get rid of the fraction first for those who have that definite fear of fractions. Okay, and what we're going to do is this whole thing is being multiplied by this whole thing. So if I multiply this by 5, okay, this side by 5, and I multiply this side by 5, okay, we can now get rid of that fraction. So on this side, 5a plus 15, okay, and then on this other side, okay, we have these multiply out, then we'd be left with 3 times a minus 1. So then we just have to simply distribute this 3. So 3a minus 3 has to equal 5a plus 15. Okay, so now we want to get our a's on the same side, so I'm going to subtract 3 a's from both sides, and then I'm going to also subtract 15 to get this a by itself. So those cancel out. Negative 3, negative 15 is negative 18. Those 15s cancel each other out, so we're left with 5a minus 3a, so this has to equal 2a. So then if we want to solve for a, we just simply divide both sides by 2, and we get that negative 9 equals a. Okay, on to number 5. This time we have a decimal involved. So if we multiply these both by the decimal, we get 1.5x plus 3 equals 7.5. So we need to get this exponent, or sorry, this variable by itself. So we need to get rid of this plus 3, so we're going to minus 3 from both sides. So we get 1.5x equals, and this is going to be 4.5. And now we need to get this x by itself. So we need to get rid of this multiplication by 1.5. So we're going to divide by 1.5. And that gives us x equals 3. On number 6, okay, we're going to first distribute things out. So 10x minus 6 minus x equals, and then distribute out again. 3 times 3 is 9x minus 3 times 2 is 6. So here, if I combine like terms, that gives me, right, 10x minus x leaves you 9, right? If you have 10x's, you take 1 away, you're left with 9x's. Minus 6 equals 9x minus 6. Well, we have the same, right? We have something equal to itself here. So at this point, you don't even have to continue on. I'm fine with you just saying already, right? These two statements are exactly the same. So we already know that this is going to be all real numbers. Okay, or you could just put the R that way. I would accept it either way. Obviously, if it's on a homework assignment that you're turning in on Schoology, you're going to have to write out all real numbers. If it's on a sheet of paper, you can just simply write that because it means the same thing. Okay, on to number 7. Okay, again, we'll distribute these out. So this is going to be 10t minus 6 plus 10t plus 10 equals 4. So 10t and 10t give us 20t's, and then negative 6 and positive 10 would give us a positive 4 equals 4. If you subtract 4 from both sides to get your variable by itself, we're left with 20t equals 0. So then we would have to divide both sides by 20, and you would get t equals 0. Okay, number 8, again, we want to distribute these out. So this would be 12b minus 18 equals 10b plus 10 plus 2b. So 12b minus 18 equals 10b plus 2b gives me 12 more b's plus 10. And then if we subtract 12 b's from both sides to get the b's together, that leaves us with negative 18 equals 10. Well, negative 18 does not and will never equal 10. So that means that there is just simply no solution. Okay, on to number 9. Okay, on this one, this whole side is being divided by 3. So to get rid of that whole side being divided by 3, we can multiply that whole side by 3. But what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So that leaves us with 6x minus 2 times x minus 4 equals 24. So I always change these to plus and negative and then distribute that. So 6x plus negative 2 times x and negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 4 would be plus 8 because a negative times a negative gives us a positive, and then equals 24. So here we have 6x minus 2x, so that's 4x plus 8 equals 24. So if we subtract 8 from both sides, we get 4x equals 16. So then all we have to do is divide both sides by 4 to get x equals 4. All right, so now if we flip it over, okay, apparently I printed this one-sided instead of two-sided. So if you printing yours back to back, you'll just flip it over. If not, you'll have to grab the next sheet. Okay, it says tell whether each number to the right of the equation is a solution of the equation. So what they're asking is, does this give us a true statement? So if I put 0 in for each spot for x, does it give me a true statement? So does 0 plus 6 over 2 times 0 minus 3 equal 0 minus 2? So 6 over a negative, or 2 times 0 is 0, right? So this is really 0. So over a negative 3, does that equal 0 minus 2? So does 6 divided by a negative 3, does a negative 2 equal a negative 2? Well, the answer is yes, right? So for 0, it works. For negative 1, we have negative 1 plus 6 divided by 2 times a negative 1 minus 3. Does that equal a negative 1 minus 2? So negative 1 plus 6 would be a positive 5. 2 times a negative 1 would be a negative 2. Negative 2 minus 3 would be negative 5. Does that equal negative 1 minus 2, which would be a negative 3? So does negative 1 equal a negative 3? No, it does not. So no, that doesn't work. So the answer is yes for 0, and it is no for negative 1. Okay, 11 and 12, they ask you to solve for a specific variable. And if we want to solve for it, that means we need to get it alone. So we need to get that x alone. So just like always, the first thing we want to do is get rid of the multiplication and division when possible. So I want to subtract b from both sides. So now I have y minus b equals m times x. I'm still trying to get this x alone, so I have to get rid of this multiplication by m. So to do that, I want to divide both sides by m. Those cancel each other out. I now have y minus b divided by m equals x. I solve for x, therefore I'm done. Okay, number 12 is going to be very similar to this, except this time I'm trying to solve for L. So I'm trying to solve for that L right there. So the first thing I need to do is get rid of this thing that's being added after it. So I'm going to subtract 2 w's from both sides. So P minus 2w equals 2L. Now I need to solve for L, so that means I need to divide everything by 2. So P divided by 2 minus, well I have 2 divided by 2 here, so those would cancel each other out, and you're just left with W equals, those 2's just cancel each other out, L. So now we've solved for L. So L equals P divided by 2 minus W. So hopefully this is helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me or send me a Schoology message, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.